All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I am joined by
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder of Movers Shakers Unlimited. Man, nice to be back in the country after being overseas.
right,
I
right,
know
right.
we're trying to do an international version, but it's all good. But yeah, man,
Hey,
we need a little bit of a break, right? So
yeah, we need a little bit of
all
break.
things going
But
on.
before we hop into the story, how was the trip, man? Because you were in, I understand you were in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was more of a family trip, but no, it was cool. We were in Zurich, Locarno, Ascona, that area, Italian part of Switzerland. A lot of good food, good times, nice views, mountains. It's funny. Someone commented on Facebook. They're like, "What are those palm trees in there?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Marlene. Yeah,
saying.
yeah. Shout out Marlene. I
Shout out
remember. Yeah,
Marley. But yeah. I
I'm a
mean,
calm
it's
mom.
Mediterranean climate around there, so I mean, it's not that they say that's kind of like the Florida of Switzerland, but I would say, yeah, Italian version
For
of that.
sure.
But anyway,
For
but
sure.
good
And then
times.
also it is September 11th. So, we just want to, do remembrance,
Yeah, definitely.
of this day, of course, of, what we remember and what transpired today. I recall it myself because I was in, it's hard to think back. It's been that long. I was in high school. I remember it vividly because we were watching it on TV actually while I was in school as it was happening. It's pretty insane. But yeah, just a remembrance of this day and its importance. But with that being said, of course, every Saturday we get into this week in review. So a lot of those news stories that made the rounds in the past week. And before we get into that, I just want to do a couple of quick reminders, as always, of course. Just make sure, if you're watching us live, send a shout out, let us know that you're watching, and share your thoughts on maybe some things that you guys, have been, made privy to, or things that you were curious about, that have happened in entertainment. Feel free to drop that comment that we have. However, if you are watching it after the fact when it's archived, make sure that you're using that hashtag TWnRMNSU, of course. So this week in review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And we're also on Patreon, of course. So, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, make sure that you, take a gander there at the link down below. We do have some nice perks that you guys can take advantage of. So by all means, if you feel the need, or you enjoy a lot of the content that we do here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited, become a Patreon supporter of us, and then shout out to our current Patreon supporter out there. Really do appreciate you. Now, aside from that, let's just hop into the stories that made the rounds this week. There's not going to be a whole bunch that we're going to get into today. It's going to be a relatively shorter show than what you guys are normally accustomed to. But as I said, if you guys had any comments or thoughts, feel free still to drop a comment in there. And then also, before I continue further, I just want to thank you guys thus far. With the support that you guys have provided. With the becoming a subscriber, and sharing your comments, and giving those notifications, those thumbs up, those really help. So keep them coming, man. Keep that momentum going, because we're nearly on track with some of the goals that that we're trying to hit here at Movers and Shakers, with hitting 1,000 subscribers, and nearly being at the minutes that we're doing to hit some of those milestones. So let's keep that momentum going, and continue to show that support, and we'll do our best to try to provide the content that you guys enjoy. Okay. So with that being said, let's hop into the first story, Jerome. I guess the first thing that we're going to have on tap now is talking about 24. So over this week, there have been discussions that 24, there are discussions that have 24 brought back to Fox. Now, I have my own thoughts, but I mean, I'm on the outside looking in, as I didn't really, I know the show, but I didn't like watch it very, religiously. You probably watched it far more than I did. So, what are your thoughts on the show making its return potentially?
And also just want to thanks everyone joining us on our 29th episode. And also tie into what you're saying with September 11th. Obviously, I mean, I was actually in New York when that happened in school. I could see the smoke, and yeah, it was definitely a terrible day and time period, and everything that's transpired has definitely changed the world, and we're still dealing with the aftermath. But definitely we want to remember all those who lost their lives and those who are first responders, our military veterans, all of those. I mean, freedom isn't free, and we thank you for your service. But also, it's kind of crazy that we're talking about 24 now. That definitely ties into how that show kind of thrived. Well, kind of like did well also because of that whole idea of terrorism being so well, I guess more prevalent and more immersed in our daily lives, and just how it's just become part of our life now in this 21st century. But yeah, I was a big fan of the show. I've watched every episode. I watched the they had a TV movie, and then they had the spin-off they had the 12 episode series, and then they had the spin-off series. I was a big fan of all of it. I mean, I think after a while it kind of, I don't know how many more seasons you could do, because I feel like they've touched every type of terrorism plot that you could think of. And what's scary is some of them were actually kind of realized later on. Maybe not exactly, but the idea of Russians kind of infiltrating a president and or compromising a president. I mean, okay, not trying to get political, but like, you guys read the news stories and everything. But there were a lot of some. I mean, they also had one of the first character who portrayed the first black president on the series.
Yeah.
And that was before Obama, I think. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of fortuitous events in that show that were really interesting, at least for some of the characters portrayed, storylines, and it just makes you think. It just makes you look at the idea of how this country, fights terrorism, or even whatever's considered terrorism it's more complex, it's more gray, it's not black and white, and that's what I appreciated about that show. Also, the idea of course, the 24 hours in real time of every episode. It's a different day, and the suspense and the cliffhangers was done so well. I really think that they pretty much, I feel like they've done everything they could do. Even though I enjoyed the spinoff and had a different character, I feel like if they're trying to bring it back, they're probably going to do something like that. I don't know about Kiefer Sutherland coming back to star in that, because he was doing other stuff. Remember, he was a Designated Survivor. Now he did some other shows, and he's doing other projects. But it would be interesting if maybe they did a spin-off with another character and it was something, I don't know, completely different. And maybe if you had a cameo, maybe, but I don't know. I just feel like that show kind of hit its peak, and it's like, I'd rather see something new, something fresh, but people are always trying to pitch something different, pitch something new, pitch a spin on like a classic show or a movie. And that's what I was, in that article. So they're talking about the producers are open to seeing what types of, I guess, what type of pitch is out there that could, take that classic take on the show and like put it in a new direction. So, I'll still check it out. We'll see. But I wasn't really anticipating a return to this show.
Yeah, no, here's my thing. Like I said, you're more privy to the show than I am. I know how rabid of a fan base the series has, and it's won many awards, and I'm aware of it's stamped that it's had on pop culture in the years that it's been on TV. However, I feel like there are only but so many times that the world could be coming to the end, and that that you're at on a time clock of something disastrous happening. There are only but so many times where it kind of gets still and not fresh. And it's better to have a show end on a high note and to leave when you're still wanting more of it, than it kind of going overboard and people being tired of it and wanting it to kind of peter out, so to speak. So if they're able to find something, for a fresh take, maybe it's something that, like you said, or even for me, that we're just not foreseeing, that they, that they are bringing to the show, that they feel that they can touch on or do. But
I forgot. There's one threat I really didn't see because I mean I'll talk about it briefly. I mean they did touch on like nuclear. They touched on gas threat. They touched on assassinations over there. They touched on like takeover of the White House. I mean they did a lot of different things that were interesting. They kind of, I mean, I guess I don't remember them really doing a threat that was strictly a cyber threat, but kind of like in Die Hard 4, Live Free Die Hard. So I feel like maybe if they did something like that, because that is the new type of warfare right now. If they really only focus on something like that, I think that maybe that could be interesting because I don't remember that because I felt like they kind of kept going with the nuclear threat in several different seasons, like with like different ways of doing that, and I was like, that's fine, but like maybe they had something they just focus on cyber terrorism and like I think that could be interesting. So yeah, I just feel like the threat needs to be something totally different, and then if they show a different twist on it, a different angle, and have some commentary on it, and it kind of it makes you think twice about like, okay, well, is this really what's going on? Like how could a government topple just from that? Because even with the whole pandemic going on, that it makes me always go back to 24. It's like that was used twice in the show about a threat. I mean, it was more bio warfare and it was more of a deadly threat. Like people were dying immediately from a virus or bio weapon. But hey, it would be interesting it would be an interesting reflection on the times that we're living in right now. So I think they would have to really have a unique threat that's also relevant to what's going on now, that's different than all those other ones. But besides that, I agree. It's like I don't know how many times you can keep playing it out, and it's probably better to do something totally different. Anyway, that's what.
All right, so hey, like I said, you can speak to it better than me, man. So switching gears from 24, this week unfortunately we also had a passing of a talented actor, Michael K. Williams. I know many folks out there, depending on the shows that you have seen him in, remember him from various shows. I mean, I remember him from The Wire. I know many others remember him from The Wire. However, I know there's a fan base out there that remember him from Boardwalk Empire. I also remember him recently from Lovecraft Country because he was phenomenal in that as well. Right now he. As I said, he passed away over this week at the age of 54, which is still, guys, that's still a young age to be passing away. Considering all the, all the, technological advances that we have now, people are living far, far longer. So, the fact that we lost him at 54 is pretty, mind blowing. And obviously, there's still, news that's coming in to confirm, what the cause of death is at this point. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of what folks are speculating, but just on the basis of this gentleman's talent, can you speak to that and to have yet another actor? It seems like over the course of these past few months we've had so many just artists in general, whether it's in the world of music or the world of film and TV, lose their lives and tragically, be taken away from us. Not just obviously from their families, but to not also have that light in the world in terms of the talents that they bring to the table. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this was a really tough one. I mean, that guy Michael K. Williams. I mean, he was really talented. I mean. To me, there's like it's almost inarguable that you could say The Wire isn't like one of the best shows ever. And he was one of the main reasons. Like his character was so unique, so special. And not just for portraying, that environment and the character, but like also because, I mean, he was also playing a gay character back then. And like, that was also a big deal too. Like, I mean, because I know that I'm sure there was controversy, or I'm sure there's discussion. People like, oh, how could But it was such a unique character that he played, and that was. I mean, I know that was definitely big for the LGBT community. In addition to obviously just him being a great actor and portraying that character, and it was just so unique, so memorable, Omar. But of course, besides that, he's done a lot of other stuff. I mean, When They See Us, the Ava DuVernay miniseries about the Central Park Five. That he was great in that show. Of course, Lovecraft Country. I mean, he was in the remake of The Gambler. I liked him in that. I mean, he's just a really great actor. And I think also another thing that's amazing, I think it's a true testament to talent is, I mean, this guy, he really was like stabbed in real life back in the day. Like, that's why he has that scar from a fight. And he still had a thriving acting career. I mean, you don't really see many actors who have like some sort of like scar, you know. I mean, that could like ruin an actor's career to a certain extent. But like, nah, I mean, he just kept going. It's like, that became, I mean, that's almost like his signature,
his staple. And I mean, there've been a few others, but yeah, no,
I mean, come on. I thought, honestly, I'll be honest, I really thought that was, I didn't know that he really had that. I thought it was like for the show or something. And I was just like, no, he really has, but it's like, it doesn't matter. He's a great actor. Who cares if he has like a, you know, it almost kind of brings more of a realness to some of his characters he portrays, because you're like, wow, did this really, I mean, what happened there? But no, I mean, he was just an amazing actor, and he has so much more to give, because you know, I know he did some comedies too. I haven't seen like some of those, but like he, you know, he could do it. I'm sure he could have. He definitely was on the cusp of continuing to do even more projects and different projects, and some actors like this who like you've known for a while. They've been in a lot of films or shows, and you've seen them around, and now they just keep growing. Eventually, like, you know, I'm sure he would have gotten some more like starring roles and been more of a eventually like a leading man in certain projects. So, you know, it's just sad that you know, he passed away. I mean, he even was in a short film from one of my colleagues, and I saw him post on Facebook. I was like, really? I was like, wow, that's nuts. I mean, for him to do that, I mean, it's just so sad. And just in general, people passing away that age, and like for whatever reason, it's just sad. Like, I mean, it just makes you look at life like, you know, I don't know, it's just too short. You know, you gotta, you know, make the most of everything, and just, I don't know, it's just terrible. But I mean, rest in peace. I mean, he's going to be remembered for his work, because he picked a lot of good roles. And, you know, The Wire's, I mean, like I said, to me, with The Wire's, like, you can't really touch that show. It's like, it's one of the best ever, and definitely put HBO on the map with The Sopranos. So, you know,
I mean, I'll take a look at it again. I'll look back through the credits, but I mean, now I feel not that it needed it at all, mind you, is the fact that Lovecraft Country, I'll look again, could have very well been his last role that we one of the last few roles that we saw him in. So you know, that role is, you know, let's just say that that role that he has in that show will now actually, you know, hold far, not that it didn't already hold importance in terms of the subject matter that it talks about, but you know, it's going to even have more reverence because of, you know, one of the last few performances that he, you know, had that we were able to see and witness. So
yeah, he has a few other shows. He has a few other shows, stuff that's completed. It just hasn't come out. But I'm looking like he has. Well, he was in F is for Family, Vital Signs is completed, Surrounded, 892. I heard even some of these like were complete. They completed most of it before he passed. So I think.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
So that's what I was reading.
Okay.
I was reading at least one of the. So I mean, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, he had other projects, and he was in a lot of projects, a lot of movies, a lot of shows. So.
For sure. So again, rest in power to Michael K. Williams, a star and a talent that left us far too early. So moving on to our next story, it deals with a household name director, Christopher Nolan. You know, many of you know him from many of the films that we know and love, whether it's, you know, Tenet or Inception, or before we got that grounded Batman trilogy with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns, what have you. Or Rises, excuse me. It's been a few years, but The Dark Knight Rises, excuse me. He is on the searching around with a couple of studios right now, or speaking with a couple of studios about an upcoming World War II project. Now, the thing that's so interesting about this is just that idea that for, quite a few years, as I was name dropping, all of those various films, iconic films that he has helmed, he has had, a great working relationship with the WB. However, as you guys will know, if you guys have been keeping up with, the stories that we've done here on This Week in Review, or if you've been following it yourselves, is just that idea that this year, in the year of 2021, because obviously of the pandemic and the repercussions of all that all that revenue that was lost over that year of theaters being closed, WB took it upon themselves to do a dual release strategy of having shows come out not just on HBO Max but also in theaters. And the thing, while it's understandable why they did that, the reason that there was so much controversy about that is because they didn't give anyone a heads up about it. Just basically said, okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. And a lot of they created a lot of bad blood, unfortunately, with a lot of their directors and their writers and many of the other folks that were a part of many of those projects that were set to release in 2021. So now he's a film that he may have very well done with WB. He's now looking to other studios. So Jerome, what are your thoughts on this story? Because obviously probably a major component which they talk about in the story is that, understandably, one of the primary things that he's going to try to go after in partnering with a potential studio with this project is to make sure that there's theatrical exclusivity. So thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Christopher Nolan, I mean, to me, he's like the best director, at least in this generation. He's my favorite director, period. I'll say that. Or he's inarguably one of the best. I mean, people can argue, but like he's kind of changed cinema in this generation. And one of the main reasons why he has is because he embraces the IMAX format in addition to all the techniques he uses. So if you're gonna piss off any filmmaker in the industry with having a at-home release at the same time theatrically, or for whatever reason, you're gonna diminish the actual impact of going to the theaters, he's like your prime candidate. So I am not surprised, and I don't blame him for him thinking of going somewhere else because of what HBO Max did. Even regardless, I mean, I get why HBO Max did what they did, but like these are some of the consequences. Maybe you might lose some filmmakers who don't like that relationship because of that. But we'll see what happens, because I mean, who knows? Because remember, HBO Max, Warner Media also they signed that new deal with theaters for next year, so they're supposedly going to go back to what was normal. But I kind of feel like that's debatable too. We'll see what happens. Maybe they will, and then maybe they'll come back. I don't know. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting, and it'll be interesting seeing like a different logo before his Syncope Productions if it goes to another studio. And It's also interesting seeing that he's doing another World War II movie, because I mean Dunkirk was amazing, but this one's interesting because it's going to be set in America, and it's about the creation of the atom bomb. About Oppenheimer. So yeah, J. Robert Oppenheimer. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see this project, but it's just funny that it's become somewhat of also a statement for how they're going to treat his film and where he's going to go. And also, I think also whatever he does, and if he goes with another studio, that'll be the studio that'll attract other filmmakers who are in the same boat and like don't like this idea of same day release theatrically and on the streamer. And let's be honest, I mean, we talked about this several times on the show. You can look at the data, the deals that were renegotiated because of what happened, and it's obvious it's had an impact on the box office. You can look at In the Heights, you can look at The Suicide Squad, and then even Disney having it's not the same situation, but it's very similar. Like Disney making people pay $30 for Black Widow while it was released, and then the box office dropping later, and then now you're seeing with Shang-Chi, like there's a difference. I don't care who you are, you can't deny that that's taken away from the box office regardless. So he knows that, and that's why he's also looking somewhere else too, so to distribute his movie. So I'll put money on it that you're going to see other filmmakers follow suit if there's a studio that's more friendly to filmmakers in that regard, of having that exclusive theatrical window and keeping it, and not trying to do this switcheroo type of stuff. But we'll see what happens. But hey, I'm excited to see the next Christopher Nolan movie.
For sure. And then I also apologize, guys. I know we were talking about was it we talking about Oppenheimer? Just for those those that are not aware of what the film will be about. It's about Oppenheimer, who is known as the father of the atom bomb. So like it's going to go into his whole story and the story of that devastating creation that he had influence on and had a hand in. So it should be a unique story. It should be an interesting story. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where the film falls with what studio, because just as you said, it's been with all of those films that I name dropped. I feel like the iconography of having those two logos pop up in front of a Nolan film has also been a part of that experience of watching the film. So it will be kind of unique and interesting to see something else in front of some of those studios for sure. All right, so I feel there's a little irony in this next story, in that talking about a film having a dual release and having a simultaneous release with the streamer as well as with a theater. So this week, it was made known that Halloween Kills will premiere both on Peacock and in theaters. So to talk about that story a little further, I'll go into the story that was shared via Variety. So hat tip to Variety, but in talking about the idea behind the strategy, apparently it was done with other films that Universal has. If you guys aren't aware, Universal Peacock. So it was first done with Boss Baby Family Business, and they were able to not only generate some revenue from the box office, but also they were also able to generate some revenue on the tail end there with what they were doing with that dual strategy. So we were just talking about literally just moments ago, talking about how the folks the creatives behind a film, whether they are directors, writers, what have you, and actors, we talked about some actors and the issues that they've had in terms of their compensation, obviously, with how a dual release can affect that. What are your thoughts on what Universal is doing here with Halloween Kills and with their dual strategy? Because it's interesting in that you could arguably say it might work in this case because of the genre that we're dealing with. However, on the same note, though, it is a major release, and it could potentially have an effect on the box office, because I know a lot of studios right now are a little trigger happy. I feel because there is some uncertainty around the next next couple of months on the tail end of this year due to variants and all those things and how it's affecting the attendance. However, what Shang-Chi has showed us is that if the film is interesting enough and something that people want to see, they are going to make the effort to still go into those theaters and to check the movie out regardless, if it's something that they really desire to see. So your thoughts on this?
But also not being available on Disney at the same time. I'm just saying, like, look, that's probably why Disney was doing that too, because they're getting sued by Scarlett Johansson anyway. But going back to Universal, I feel like the strategy is always, let's release the kid movies out first and see how that goes. And usually there's success behind it. And then now they're trying, because remember they did Trolls, the Trolls sequel that did well last year. That was one of the first ones that was just on demand. And then they had that Boss Baby film, the Boss Baby Family Business. But yeah, I just found this interesting because it's also, like you were just talking about, it's a horror film, and it's a franchise movie, and they're now experimenting with, I guess, with a live action film, just like HBO Max was doing. But HBO Max, obviously, they have their whole slate that they're doing this with. So it's interesting, like I said, seeing the domino effect and how other studios are trying to create their own model or copy somehow that model. And I kind of agree with you. The main reason why I think it's more difficult with like a horror film is like those are one of the specific films that also people like going to the theater to watch. Like if they're with a date or with a bunch of people, because you're in the dark and you get scared. There's jumps. Like that is an experience in itself. So it's like, I mean, you can have that at home, but it's just not the same. Like usually you do that later on, after if you've seen the film before and you just want to watch it again, or I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's not the same effect. So. I'm sure it's going to affect the box office, but I also say that I don't know the exact budget, but I'm sure it's probably pretty low. They have a good chance of getting it back.
I was going to say the budget is pretty low, but I guess the thing that I find interesting about it is just the idea of, this would make sense in a circumstance where a film, if it's not tracking well and they don't feel like, there's not really any anticipation for it. But again, like I was commenting before, is the fact that it is a franchise, and I'll go into what they discuss, in the article. And again, hat tip to, Variety with these figures. But if you look elsewhere, you'll be able to find it as well. It's just that idea that it was the highest grossing slasher film, in history. It generated $255 million globally. Mm-hmm. So, the fact that it's able to generate that amount of revenue and you're doing a follow-up to that. So, the potential for that is that you can still generate, that amount of revenue. And here's the crazy thing, guys, like 255, I mean, while it's nothing to put your nose up at, like it's
a low budget though.
It's still relatively, I mean, but here's the thing, it's still, it's a big profit, I'm sure, based on how much, how much the budget of the film was. But in the context of being able to generate that amount of revenue, it's not unheard of, even in the current post-COVID, I'll put quotation marks because it's still happening, but post-COVID, as it's quoted as post-COVID era. I mean, we had the Godzilla film. It did gangbusters. At the box office. We had let me see. We had a couple of other. I mean,
Mortal Kombat did pretty well. I think Mortal Kombat did.
It did okay, but I'm just saying, like.
But compared to the other ones that they released on HBO Max,
but I'm saying also like Shang-Chi, like and again, I know it's a little different because it's like a theatrical exclusivity there, but still the fact that I'm saying in the context of them perhaps giving theatrical exclusivity to Halloween Kills, had they done that, it still, I feel, could have hit that numbers and exceeded those numbers, even in the current era that we're in now. It's not like the movie needed to make $1 billion. Like, you have a lot of Marvel films that make like 255 in their sleep, over the course of a weekend. And again, like, I know it's still adjusted now because of the era that we're in, but I still feel that based on, recent films that have, started to generate a lot of revenue, or far more revenue than was initially anticipated, that it could have still done that. So I don't know. I think this might come back to bite them, because, like, give me another example. We're having the Venom sequel coming out. Let There Be Carnage.
Let There Be Carnage, yeah.
And it may very well, I believe that's going to generate, that total and then some. And, you're going to have a couple of studios that are going to kind of regret, this decision. And I think this is going to be an example of that.
But you got to remember, they're doing, the only reason I agree with you, but you got to remember, the only reason they're really doing this is because they're trying to build Peacock. So I get it. You're not going to be able to see this anywhere else. So that's why they're doing, like, they're taking that risk.
Cut your nose to spite your face.
But the thing is, long-term money, like streaming money, is way more than just box office, because it's monthly. You're not paying. The only people getting a monthly subscription for theaters would be like AMC, and even that's not like the same. So that's what they're doing. This is that's why HBO Max is doing what they did. Their numbers are up. Everyone's trying to compete. Like, look, you saw Disney. Their subscribers are getting. I mean, they're pretty much neck and neck with Netflix, and they're probably going to surpass them soon. I haven't even checked just recently, and that's because of what they're doing. So everyone's trying to like get a little piece of that pie, and this is probably why they're doing this. Like, if you can't watch Halloween anywhere else, I mean, I think you would want to still get that box office, but it's like, hey, there's people who still want to watch it at home. It's like they're gonna pay, what is it? You got to pay $4.90. I think it's $4.99 or what is it? $9.99. I think for the service. So yeah, $4.99 or $9.99. So if they can turn people into a subscriber, that's why the only other reason I think they're doing it. Otherwise I think they would just have it in the box office. Like Sony doesn't have a streamer, so that's why they're not going to do something like that.
I guess the only thing that I say is, there are other strategies. I get what you're saying, but I feel like there are other strategies that you could go about to still accomplish that without, like I said, cutting your nose to spite your face and, kind of hemorrhaging potential business from, one of your big releases, one of the, few major big releases that you have, because you could do a couple of things. Like I know that overall a lot of films have, a lot of films have had their theatrical run, shortened. Yeah, shortened. But maybe, you shorten it a little more so that way it can immediately go to your streamer. So that way people, if they didn't see it in the shortened theatrical run, that they can check it out. Or, you do what HBO did, and you have a film that has a director's cut or an extended cut or an unrated cut that has, that has like more footage in it. Like there are other strategies that you can do to still kind of get eyes in front of your platform, in front of your streamer.
I think because it's new though. We gotta remember it's new though. We gotta remember like people like the idea of I'm seeing it new, so that's like the reason. I mean, someone up there, they're doing the numbers. Hey, we'll see what happens.
It's gonna come back to bite them. That's just my opinion.
But HBO Max has increased their subscribers, so it is someone working, but they're hurting their box office. But you gotta remember though, if as they build it. It's like Netflix. Netflix had like they had ridiculous debt that they spent on content, but it worked because people kept staying with Netflix. They said like they have to spend the money. Like HBO already has all these WarnerMedia already has all these big titles. So they're like, hey, if we can't get the most of the box office, let's just release it. Boom. Now people are going to just subscribe and watch it. But yes, they're still losing box office, but they're looking at the long game, but we'll see what happens otherwise. But that is the exclusive. That is the draw of like of something being new. And then like, you don't really have to pay for it, but you just pay to subscribe. I think that's the draw for some people, but not for me. Cause I like going to see stuff in the theaters, but for those who don't want to go see the theaters, hey, that's what happens. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
Speaking of dual releases, obviously this week, unless you guys have been living under a rock, you guys know that we had a major trailer that hit the internet this week, hit a couple of days ago, and that is, of course, The Matrix Revolutions. Oh my gosh, what is going on today? This is the third one. The Matrix Resurrections, guys. I'm tripping this morning. I need to get some sleep. But anyway, so yes. The Matrix Resurrections, which has brought back some of the stars that we have come to know and love, iconic characters from this franchise that started, 20 plus years ago in 1999. Man, I'm aging ourselves, but because I was in high school? No, I wasn't even in high school. I was about to go to high school. I think I was in high school. I was in middle school. I was about seventh, eighth grade. So about to make the the travel to high school. Like obviously such an iconic film. And I mean, I've shared my thoughts. I've been fortunate to share my thoughts, with other contemporaries on their respective outlets. So I talked briefly about it with Sam Leggett, many of you know as JBS, and discussing that on his show. But we, as I said, we have Neo. It seems to be coming back. Trinity, as we saw in the trailer, and there has been a little bit of controversy, surrounding a potential like recast of Morpheus and having a younger Morpheus and not Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, I have my thoughts on it and I'll share, but Jerome, I'll punt it over to you first before I get into, some of my thoughts and opinions about what was seen.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the trailer, I just watched it like 3 times now, and it's like, I think it looks amazing. I mean, it looks great. My only issue, and like I said, I'm still going in with like low expectations. I mean, at least based on the trailer, it looks like they're just redoing the first one. But I'm sure, or I hope there's a good chance that obviously there's a lot more to that, and we're going to see why they're doing that. And at least, I'm just hoping the trailer isn't showing most of what the movie's about. I really doubt it is, but if they can connect it well to the original trilogy, I'm all for it. I'm looking for that, and for the story actually making sense and having some sort of relevance to why the sequel is even here, like why we even have it. And then also I'm hoping the special effects, there's some special effects we're not seeing, that if there's some sort of spin they put on bullet time or to do some other different things with it. But like I said, right now it just looks like it's like a little remake of the first one, and it's like, okay, if you're gonna do it in a different way, like I said, if it actually works within that world and there's something new that they're adding to it, and the reason why they got there makes sense, I'm like, okay, I'm open to it. But I just hope it's not just like a remake of the movie, like I still enjoyed Terminator, what is it, Dark Fate, but it can never be as good as Terminator 2. I mean, it was basically like a remake of Terminator 2. It was a better version than some of the other sequels, but it ends up just being a nostalgic remake, and I just hope it's not just one of those. But no, I mean, hey, you're kind of you're convincing me a little bit more to think that this movie is kind of going to be worthwhile and worth my time, as opposed to just, all right, we're just trying to make money. So I'll give Warner Brothers and Lana Wachowski some credit for at least this trailer, because it does look amazing. But I just hope it's just not a remake.
Yeah, no, I got you. And
not just a cop out saying if it's resurrections, like we were talking, like if it's just, everything died and now we're just, there's another version of the Matrix. And I'm like, if it's just that, then it's like you can keep making sequels and be like, no, stop, please don't just milk it. But I hope it's just not a cop out like that. We're just another version. Unless it's like a Matrix within a Matrix, which I thought the sequel was going to happen. But then now you have Inception already kind of did that. But if they did something like that, that'd be interesting. Let's explore that. But I don't know if they're going to.
No, I hear you. So I guess one thing that I'll go into just the trailer itself briefly. Obviously, they have some Easter eggs that are in there for those that are eagle-eyed fans of the franchise. Even with the song, the song choice was very appropriate. I don't know if you, for those of you that don't know, the title out there is known as the White Rabbit. So just that idea of follow the White Rabbit, which many of us know as kind of one of the major moments of like the first installment in the franchise, and Neo basically going down the rabbit hole, so to speak, as in like Alice in Wonderland, which also we get an Easter egg of. But yeah, just that idea of going down the rabbit hole and really finding out the truth about your reality, about the facade of the Matrix, obviously, and the real world, so to speak, that exists beyond that. But there are obviously some other things too that I wanted to touch on also. You have, let me see if I can fast forward here. You have the black cat, which we had as like a deja vu, if you guys recall, from the first film, and then talking about how there are glitches a lot of times in the Matrix, and when there are glitches like that, or when there's like deja vu moments like that, you have instances where the machines are changing something. So because of that change, it has like a ripple effect in the Matrix, and there's certain glitches that happen, just like you would in any like simulation or game. Like, developers is making a change in there, and it affects, it has a cascading kind of ripple effect across Trinity and Neo here, where like we had that moment where they're meeting, and obviously it looks like she doesn't know who he is. It based on how this interaction is going, perhaps he's starting to get some memories of who she is, but she hasn't really kind of broken out of her amnesia or not remembering who Neo is, because obviously if you guys know, and as I said, I know this is a 20+ year sequel or follow-up, so there may be some of you out there that maybe you were too young when it's hard to believe that you may have been too young when the original trilogy came out, but they were like, they were the a couple in that original trilogy, and they were an item in that original trilogy. So in the prior trilogy, it was revealed that we had that idea of the Matrix being rebooted, and there being many generations of the Matrix, many generations of the one. So one thing that I've thought about as a potential theory is perhaps what's going on here is that Neo is in fact the only person from the original trilogy, and all these other characters are basically rebooted versions of those characters. So they're not going to have memories or experiences of what their prior iterations had, because they haven't yet experienced it yet. So it's kind of like a cycle effect where if we do in fact have a younger Morpheus, maybe he's almost like, it's funny, we have all these franchises that are dealing with multiverses and alternate universes and I mean variants and all those things. Maybe what the Matrix does after one generation dies off and goes through that pattern of rebelling and everything, they just have another copy or a clone of that same character, and that character re-experiences their whole pattern of their life again and again and again. Because again, like they really don't really need to create a new person. They could just have the same people reside in the Matrix, generation after generation, because at the end of the day, they're just being used as batteries anyway. So it begs the question, maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe that's how they're going to kind of refresh it, is that, the potential is there for these characters to go down the same path, but maybe like what we have with Trinity here and what we have with if it is in fact the younger Morpheus, is that they're kind of rebooting it in a way, and that they're showing how these characters came about and how they were able to wake up, so to speak, in knowing what the Matrix is. But maybe they're slightly different too, because they can potentially go in a different direction, because they have yet to experience what their prior iterations have experienced. I know I'm getting really trippy and heady, but it would be interesting if they did decide to go that way. However, I mean, there are still some constants here. We still have, the blue pills. Obviously, if you in the original trilogy, the blue pill, you had that scene with Morpheus where you had the blue pill and the red pill. The blue pill being, something that kept you, within the Matrix and keeping the wool over your eyes, so to speak, in terms of the facade of the Matrix. And then the red pill allowed you to open your eyes and to wake up from that simulation. We had a moment here with the character here. I know there's been some speculation. Maybe it is the
new Oracle,
but a new Oracle for different reasons. Maybe it's the Oracle that we know and love from the original trilogy, or it could be the little girl who was left in Revolutions in the original trilogy. Because if we all recall, like, she was a little girl then, but if we do the math,
the Indian girl, you're talking about the little Indian girl?
Yeah. If we do the math, maybe, and think of like 20 years ago, like potentially this could be the same character, because if we're thinking back on the original trilogy, she was working with the Oracle. Like she was with the Oracle the entire time. So, just like you were saying, Jerome, potentially she is a new Oracle, but she is the little girl that we, remembered from the prior trilogy. So moving on, as I said, we have a couple of other moments there. We have this moment with iconic moment with Morpheus and kind of
want to be Morpheus. Don't call him Morpheus. I mean, basically, like, hey,
yeah, but I mean,
he's a good actor, but yo, come on. I really hope
we have a little beat. We have a lot of beats.
I hope it wasn't a negotiation thing or a money thing, because, like, come on. But anyway, maybe he'll still be in the movie and have a cameo.
Well, from what I understand, and if anyone like is interested, I mean, they've had recent interviews with Fishburne and talking about, why aren't you a part of this? And he said, I wasn't asked. So like, I don't know what if it was, just if it was I hate to say it, if it was a spiteful thing in which they said, okay, we're not going to have him a part of this, or if it was just something where it wasn't meant to be, anything spiteful or
maybe they're just hiding it.
They just didn't need. Or that. I mean, that's also possible.
They're like, oh
yeah, and he could be in on it too. Yeah, he could be in on it too, and just not telling us. But we, just as you were saying, it seems like they are. I don't want to say rehashing, but they are remixing a lot of moments in different ways. So like we have this moment, obviously, that I was alluding to before, in which, just like now, you have a scene between Morpheus and Neo, and him giving him that option of either seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes and learning the truth, or with the blue pill remaining in the Matrix. We have obviously the other scene. We have another scene here where we have a new character who's kind of seems like to be playing kind of that Trinity-esque role of helping Neo learn more about the Matrix and its existence. We also seem to be having that moment in the dojo, just like we had in the original trilogy, where Neo is, kind of training and learning, more about, his abilities as a fighter. However, we do have a different caveat there, because we have that idea of him. Because if I remember correctly, I don't really believe. Well, maybe it was alluded to. He did have telekinesis, and he had control over like other machines. But this kind of like ability of him to be able to generate this light. I mean, I'll go back and look, but I think that might be slightly new. So like when he's like using kind of that telekinetic ability, and like this like huge light is generated that we see here. Let me see. So like right here, like this huge light that's generated, like I don't feel like that was a part of the original trilogy. That might be slightly new, or a new variation of ability that he has. So that'll be interesting to see. And let me see. Obviously, we have see if there's another moment that I wanted to cut to. We still have those moments of the agents, of them being able to transform into any person that's in the Matrix. We do have this, and I wanted to put this up too. We have this moment. See if I can pull it up here. This moment with Morpheus, where he's kind of like crossing over the two weapons that he's using. That part I found interesting, because it's basically the scene that we have of Neo. It calls back to Neo being in the building, and when he's saving Morpheus, ironically. And there was one other moment here. Let me see. There was one other moment here, like when they're jumping off the building, calls back to when Neo is learning more about the facade of the Matrix, and he, in that original trilogy, in the simulation, he falls to the ground after jumping off the building. So, as I said, there are a whole bunch of scenes in here that allude to, or Easter eggs to, the original trilogy that are, intriguing. However, I guess
like a remake.
Well, here's the thing.
That's the only problem. Hopefully, it really isn't just a remake. That's my only thing.
Here's my thoughts on it. Like, I believe when I first, and I'll remix a little bit of what I discussed before. When I first saw the trailer, I'll be honest, and this is not going to be a really popular response. I was really, prior to seeing the trailer, I was really excited at the prospect of revisiting this world and a lot of the things that it introduced. But after I saw it, I was like, okay, like that. I guess that was cool, but like some of the stuff, because we've had no. I'm just saying, we've had so many, we had so many awesome things that have happened in movies in the 20 years since the Matrix has been away from us. Since the franchise has been away from us. I mean, we were just talking about Christopher Nolan and a lot of the films that he's had. Inception, Tenet. That's just. I mean, we've had the whole MCU. I mean, that basically started in kind in 2008. I mean, and they've had some amazing, installments that have been a part of that mega franchise. I mean, we've had The Mandalorian in terms of the technology that we're using with a lot of those shows and what's available to us. So at this point, I feel like the bar has been raised, and many of the things that the Matrix would be able to get away with maybe a couple of years ago, I feel like they have to take it to another level in order to really stand out. And so from what I saw in the teaser, while it was cool to see a lot of the characters, it didn't really blow me away. I was like, okay, I've seen that before.
That's the problem with a remake too. Exactly. Yeah, as you have the expectation, you already know what's out there. But you also got to remember the Matrix, because that was the first time we saw that happen and we didn't know what to expect, and that's what made it so amazing.
Exactly.
So I really hope they're not just trying, because right now the trailer I still think it looks pretty cool. Like. But it looks like if they're just trying to redo stuff, unless they also have some special effects there that are going to be really cool too, I think that would blow it away. Because like I said, there hasn't really, but I will just kind of disagree a little bit with what you're saying. It's true that MCU and everything came out and everything, but none of those movies have really done like innovative. I guess you could say Avatar is the only one with the 3D, but only other movie I could think of that's done like some really innovative special effects since The Matrix is probably Tenet, because the whole reverse stuff, like that was crazy. But like all the other, I mean, the Marvel stuff is cool because of the CGI, but I'm talking about like how like that whole idea of doing those special effects in The Matrix of bullet time and then 360-degree angle, and then you're seeing like there were people trying to copy that, like it was Swordfish, that was some BS. They just did it for no reason. But The Matrix actually was playing with those. They were really trying to play with the special effects and make you look at special effects from a different point of view, as opposed to just CGI, which is cool, or the ways that you create CGI. Like it's cool what the Mandalorian's doing, but like that's still just doing what was done before, but just in an easier, user-friendly way. And it looks amazing for a TV show. But I'm saying it ain't like, the only other example I could think of is like Avatar and then maybe Tenet, of just doing something like, wow, I haven't even seen this before, because I'm like, I don't even know what to think about, because it's like, it's just a different way of doing special effects or showing something that you haven't seen. I mean, I can't think of another example besides that, but that's one of the reasons why The Matrix was so amazing, because like we never saw that in live action, this idea of 360-degree special effects with slow motion bullet time. I mean, I know you said people always talk about Blade. Yeah, that's one way, but Blade, what happened in Blade wasn't as significant because it wasn't that whole 360-degree angle. That's what made it so unique in The Matrix. We never saw that version before. I think they were influenced by some of the obviously the anime or Japanimation stuff, but in live action, I hadn't seen that before. So I don't know. If you could think of another example, I hope that they try to do something like that with this one. That would excite me, but I'm going with low expectations.
I mean, I'm going with low expectations because, as I said, like, and I don't get me wrong, like, there's some elements of it that were really cool to see. It was cool to see a lot of the characters come back, and it was, cool to have the theme at the end of the trailer that, the score that we're, accustomed to hearing whenever like something cool happens, like, whenever like one of the characters do something really cool, it has that little like riff, like, like. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's cool to hear that again. So I don't know. Maybe as I get closer to the release, my anticipation will increase, a bit and reach, get to that level where, I'm super excited about it. It's nice to have it come back, but at the same time, like, maybe we'll see. Maybe they, in doing this teaser, they're really holding a lot of things close to the vest. They really are saving a lot of stuff that they really aren't showing us, because like from what I saw, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to go to the theater to see it for sure. But just from what I saw in the teaser, like it was a good teaser, but it wasn't a mind-blowing teaser, I'll be honest. So, because it wasn't anything crazy that I didn't really already expect from a Matrix movie anyway. So
it makes me also wonder if they're doing this to reboot, and maybe there's some new stuff, and then it's almost like they want to do a new trilogy. I bet you I have a feeling that's probably what they're trying to do. But I just please hope like I hope you have something else. I just please don't rehash. Like, this is just my only beef, and we've talked about this several times. It's like, if you're gonna do sequels, please have a purpose, a reason, and give us something different. I'll say with the MCU, what they brought was the whole shared universe, and that wasn't done before, and that was the coolest part, I think. But Why does MCU survive? Every installment is like its own story, even in the individual stories. It isn't just trying to rehash, I mean, or recycle the same type of story. So I just hope if you like, maybe hopefully the Warner Media can learn if you're gonna bring something back, don't just recycle, man. Please give us something different in there. Maybe, like I said, Matrix within a Matrix. Okay, Nolan did that with Inception, but that would be cool. And then, honestly, like I was saying before, me and my friends after the Matrix Reloaded, we were like, "Yo," when he was messing with the Sentinels in the real world, I was like, "Is this another Matrix?" And then it kind of didn't go that direction, but I was like, I thought that would have been cool. I would be like, "Whoa, what if that was also BS too?" And then there's another. And he could have done that before Inception. They could have done that before Inception, but I think they messed up by not trying to do that. But that's me. That was my. I think that could be cool, or something just give us another angle, but don't just say, "Oh, we resurrect everybody. Now we put them back in, and then now we just do it." It's it's the same. It's like with Terminator. I love Terminator, but how many times can they go back and try to kill the next? We get it. That story's done. It's played out, bro. Next, something different.
And I'll close with this. I was gonna say,
and that's why the Mandalorian did well too. I think it did well because it's not just a Skywalker story. It's like the Mandalorian. He's on his mission. That's a different part. Just give us a different part of the story. We love the world. Give us a different story within that world. That's all I'm saying.
No, I hear you. And I'll close with this because I commented on this too. If that is the case, what we're talking about that they're actually doing, then I would say, guys, that you're about 10 years too late. If this movie came out 10 years ago, and I'm saying this under the auspices of if there isn't anything else that we're new or mind blowing that's going to be in here, that it's about 10 years too late. Because we've seen a lot of franchises where there's been a significant amount of time. Sometimes it's 10 years, sometimes it's 15 years, sometimes it's a generation, sometimes it's 30 years. But there is something to be said about that time away, from that franchise. Sometimes in some cases it works, but I still feel like there is a finite amount of time between one installment and the other. I feel 10 years is not too long, but you kind of get into that red area when it's 15 or 20 years where you're introducing this idea to a new generation, but this new generation, may be into something else and may not want to rock with, what you're trying to do. So it just is what it is. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching.
We're trying to make this short. I know we just can't. I know.
Just can't help it. Can't help it, man. It's all.
We're passionate about this. You could tell we like these movies. We watch too many movies and TV shows, but we love it.
Hey,
that's why we do.
That's why you like. That's why you love us, right, guys? Because you like us riffing on talking about all this stuff. But anyway, I digress. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and of course, I am joined by
co-creator, co-founder Jerome Bourgeois, Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and definitely, you could check me out. What is it? JW21 on Twitter and on Instagram, and definitely, obviously, check us out at Movers Shakers Unlimited on Instagram, Move and Shake UNLTD on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, it's up there. And also, if you want to support us, like Brandon said earlier, on Patreon, you go to patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. Like, subscribe, follow, and we'll see you guys next week. And I'll send it back to you, Brandon.
All right, cool. So yes, I am your host, as I said, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And yes, just as Jerome was saying, you can find us on Twitter or Instagram, and there with our Patreon as well. Stay tuned, as we do have a couple of other exclusives that will be happening this weekend with a couple of cons. One's going to be a retrospective on Dragon Con, which we will get momentarily, and we'll also have one for Road City Comic Con happening tomorrow. I know normally I try to hit you guys up with a promo. Things have been really hectic, and I think that's just by virtue, which we will get into in the other show too. It's just been super hectic in this last quarter of the year. It's in large part due to, obviously, with COVID and a lot of shows being moved around. And because of that, a lot of cons are popping up. It seems like every single weekend when like during the summer, you know, it's spread out over a course of a whole summer, but now we have it all bunched up into like a couple of months. So it's been really crazy, you know, dealing with that adjustment and that change. But we will persevere and you know, try to give you as much coverage in that regard as possible. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Peace.